This is the 21:55 GMT edition on Sunday, 4th of December 2022 of the Baby Angel Geronimo editions of the Khoodeelaar television channel. Khoodeelaar. Now, Khoodeelaar is the war cry against liars and criminals and antisocial elements and depraved morons like George Injustice Eustace. In a letter in the local Cornwall area news outlet, a man from Westo has written a letter condemning, effectively condemning Eustace the liar. And this is one of the follow-ups to his confession in a spiel in the middle of last month in the House of Commons, where the crucial admission by the liar was that now that he was no longer a minister, he didn't have to put a gloss on things. That is why he was able depraved injustice colluded with evil. Now we are calling the name of Christian Middlemas. From this point onwards, we are calling her Christian Ebilmas, because Christian Ebilmas has for years been lying against the most innocent baby angel Geronimo. And the lies of confessions to lying, having lied, confessions made by George Injustice Eustace are directly related to the Christian Ebilmas's encouragement. No longer a minister, and he is no longer under the direction of Ebilmas. So, in desperation, while the likes of stupid Javid are lining themselves up for the boardrooms of big companies, Ebilmas is going to lose the services of the loyal servant, evil injustice Eustace. But baby angel Geronimo knows that every line that Eustace uttered in response to representations made by baby angel Geronimo and his mom Helen MacDonald, every line of lying, every line of denial was a lie. And that lie, each lie, was concocted, confected by the liar, Christian Middlemas. So we are able to read, let's see the letter. Can we find the letter? That letter, we shall read the main essence of that letter. Liar, evil liar. Now, letter is posted 6 hours ago, according to this particular post on the internet. Gazette and Herald. Letter hoping our MP will reverse the damage. Well, he may reverse the damage about the caused by the OTT hyped Brexit hyping Australia deal. But the lies that he has perpetrated against the truth about baby angel Geronimo can never be reversed. He has to repent and he has to be prosecuted. In addition to him, Christian middle mass, evil mass has to face prosecution, as must the liar Boris Johnson, who should be prosecuted as well. George Eustace, this is the letter. George Eustace, the Environment Secretary but one, recently told MPs that the free trade agreement with Australia signed earlier this year was, quote, not actually a very good deal for the UK, unquote. The letter writer says, this is perhaps not a surprise, as Rishi Sunak had admitted as much on the hustings during the recent Conservative Party leadership contest. Mr. Eustace laid the blame on Liz Truss and her interim permanent secretary at the Department for Trade and Industry in a rush to get an agreement signed. Another part of her legacy to the country. This is an ironic statement by the letter writer. Kevin Hollinrake, MP for the rural constituency of Thursk and Moulton, enthusiastically welcomed the agreement, that is the agreement with Australia, that the depraved Eustace was celebrating at the time. The consequences for the farming and food sectors are likely to be damaging, but will not be felt for some years, as there is a lengthy transition period. The agreement was supposed to be one of the benefits of leaving the European Union. The country seems to be realizing that the opposite is the case, with 56% in recent polling saying that leaving was a mistake. The UK clearly needs a better relationship with its largest trading partner to reverse the decline in trade to and from the European Union and the difficulties in doing it. We were promised honesty and integrity from the government. Can you believe this? He still believes that it was a promise that should have been kept. It never was meant to be kept. The letter writer, Martin Phillips from Westow, says, I hope Mr. Hollinrake, in his new role as a government minister, will be honest in accepting the inadequacies of the Australian Free Trade Agreement, and also, it would appear, the one with Japan, and argue for reversing the damage caused to European Union trade by Brexit. Now, this is not about individual cruelty perpetrated against the likes of baby angel Geronimo in the defamation demonization carried against baby angel Geronimo for 4 years with the instigation and collusion of the evil woman, Christian evil mass. Of course, it is not about individual, but it is a principle that Eustace got it wrong. And add to that his confession in his spiel delivered in the House of Commons 2 weeks ago or thereabouts, that now that he was no longer a minister, He didn't have to put a gloss on it. He had to tell it as it is, which is exactly what applies to his lying. Dozens, if not hundreds, of communications were sent to the liar on behalf of baby angel Geronimo and on behalf of Helen MacDonald. And every time he rejected those letters, those pleas, those requests. Now the criminal is exposed, nakedly exposed, as a petty minded, depraved moron, criminal, liar, who must be brought to book. Nothing less will do. So we shall be following the criminal's further degeneration, and we shall be updating. And baby angel Geronimo is witnessing all of this, and baby angel Geronimo, with each event, each episode, is vindicated as he is absolutely spiritually, ethically, morally, universally set to be vindicated every time. Now, on the update front, talk about the comments published this evening, Sunday, the 4th of December 2022, by the Times Online about a neurologist, a brain surgeon, a brain specialist, describing the UK government, UK Foreign Ministry, of behaving in a barbaric way because they have been refusing to help a very seriously ill woman kept in the most disastrously unhygienic and unhealthy Kurdish controlled center in Syria. Let's see what the exact details are. The Times. So this is the letter. Well, this is the piece on the Times. Let's see. UK refuses to bring stricken ISIS bride home. They're not talking in that headline about Shamima Begum. And The subheading is Disabled Mother in Syrian Camp May Die Without Medical Treatment, Foreign Office warned. And this is a piece that has been posted at 12:01 a.m. That this was posted at the beginning of this day, 4th of December, as the Sunday Times thing, not Chris Times. And this is Christina Lamb. Now, Christina Lamb is a widely chronicled correspondent on the Middle East. So this is what she has said, and it's a paywalled piece, so the whole piece is not there. We can't access it. But it's about the plight of a woman called Laila, whose name is a pseudonym because of an apparent anonymity order. And Laila has spent almost 4 years in Kurdish-controlled camps with her son, now 5 years old. And she is one of the about 60 ISIS brides from Britain and their children, stranded since the defeat of Islamic State. They include Shamima Begum, who traveled to Syria at the age of 15. Now, Christina Lamb should know better than to retell this lie. Shamima Begum did not travel to Syria at the age of 15. Fuck off, Christina Lamb. Shamima Begum was trafficked. It's not the same thing as traveling. And we still don't know, the world doesn't yet know publicly how many millions of factors were involved in the trafficking of this child and the other 2 children with her, along with her. All of them are children. So, this is Christina Lamb saying that Shamima Begum traveled to Syria at the age of 15. The first paragraph of this 2-paragraph accessible part of the paywalled piece. A leading neurologist, in there is no name of the neurologist, which must be contained in the paywalled bits that we are not accessing. A leading neurologist has accused the Foreign Office of barbaric behavior for failing to evacuate a dangerously ill woman from a detention camp in northeast Syria, where he says, the neurologist, that she will die without treatment. Now, about 60 women, 60 British brides. I mean, why aren't there more stories, urgent investigations into the plight of these women, all 60 of them? And we shall be, of course, following this, and this is one of the follow-up things that we are doing, although this particular piece by Christian Lamb is not essentially about Shamima Begum, but it actually, in principle, applies to Shamima Begum as much as it does to the woman concerned at the center of the story. Now, the picture of the camp is really a desolate picture, very, very. Some 60,000 people are being held in camps in northeastern Syria, including so-called ISIS brides. This is a picture by Claire Thomas, Claire Thomas, Thomas, in the Sunday Times piece. The Sunday Times of 4th of December 2022. It must be a piece on the inside. I can't see the Sunday Times cover in this particular online item. So, and what we are doing here is just making notes each time we come across an item. We are not necessarily able to go into the details every time we do a noting. But the essential point of the piece about the barbaric attitude by the British Foreign Office is that it is not just the Foreign Office, it's Rishi Sunak. And it is the entire parliament. It is the entire so-called official parliament and the official opposition as well. Notice how these so-called Indira fanatics in Scotland They've got so many MPs in Parliament at Westminster until they become independent, if and when they do that. These MPs don't make any issue. They don't make any comment about Shamima Begum or about the barbaric behavior of the UK government. What is stopping them? So the Scottish, the SNP, are as racist as the Boris Johnson fronted Conservatives were. Now, what is different with Rishi Sunak fronting the Conservatives? I mean, Rishi Sunak, Sajid Javid, Stupid Javid, these are straight away, directly Asian descent, Asians themselves, born to Asian parents. So they're being MPs or they're being ministers or they're being prime minister. What is Rishi Sunak doing? What are they making? What are they doing that is different from what would happen if they weren't in post on the posts they are now holding were being held by white people, which is what has been happening for hundreds of years, had happened for hundreds of years. Now this is a glorification of a head teacher. They say that in the heading in the Times is how one had. This is detestable when they call a head teacher head. He's not head, you fucking idiots. He's head teacher. He's nobody's head, you fucking morons. How one head teacher saved a sink school in the shadow of Grenfell. Andrew O'Neill faced down gang culture and brought in strict rules, meditation, and ice cream. Remember my broadcast 3 days ago when I said that in the streets of East London, walking during lunchtime near secondary schools was a disaster because all these children, most of them in the inner cities, East London, are African origin or Asian origin, or African and Asian origin teenagers. And they behave like thugs, gangs of thugs and criminals. Here is Andrew Neil being reported gloriously by the Times, Sunday Times one, Sean Griffiths, education editor, that he faced down gang culture and brought in strict rules, meditation, and ice cream. Now, I'm not going to go into the details of this piece because this too is a paywalled article. But the point is that if he could face down gang culture, why can't the others? We shall be exploring and examining this theme, details, not necessarily later in this edition, but in the course of future editions. When Andrew O'Neill first set foot in All Saints Catholic College, walls were covered in graffiti, truancy rates were sky high, and the toilets were blocked by pupils deliberately clogging them with paper. So, what happened to the previous head teacher? Had that one been prosecuted for their part in the gang culture? The fucking shits. In his first 6 weeks as head teacher, he expelled 4 girls for bringing a knife into the building to stab another people, confiscated mobile phones from children who pulled them out in lessons to phone their mates, and reported to police parents who threatened to fuck him over. Well, the parents were thugs as well, aren't they? So, this is the whole point. The parents are part of the gangs of criminals posing as school children in inner city London. And that is the issue that the criminal Keir Starmer, who has politically murdered the Labour Party, is in denial of, and most of the Conservative Party, most of Parliament are in denial of. I mean, for the Times to link the word Grenfell to this is disgraceful, because the Grenfell is now a glamorized word because it is used by trendies and others who have nothing to do with saving a life in Grenfell, as if by reflection they are somehow to be credited with something they have done good. They haven't. We said from the beginning in 2017 that Grenfell's 72 people were massacred. And they were massacred by the UK central government, massacred by the UK local councils and the fire brigades and ambulance and all the rest of it. We maintain that military aircraft, like military helicopters and choppers, should have been scrambled. Dozens of helicopters could have been scrambled, bringing water to put the fire out and saving lives. Because logistically, the Grenfell building was completely open, surrounded by absolutely ideal open space for scrambled helicopters to bring emergency water to put out the fire that murdered these people. That Theresa May failed to do that the mayor of London failed to do that the police failed to do that whoever else was responsible for marshalling, commandeering these military aircraft, helicopters in particular, they must all be tried for crimes against humanity over Grenfell. And we denounce those who say that peaceful vigils in memory, in honor of the Grenfell people are enough. We detest that. We say that that is actually taking away the attention from the criminals in the local council, criminals in the UK central government department, and so on. So we shall be extending our narrative and update our commentary on this in due course as well. And we denounce the Times for publishing, the Times news group for publishing this promotion for Andrew O'Neill or Andrew Griffiths. What's his name? Let's see. The head teacher, they're overhyping. Andrew O'Neill. He is overhyped, and he's overhyping himself. With 6 children behind him, this is overgloating himself. And it should not be allowed. We've seen too many sing schools being created in inner London, inner cities, inner London. And we have seen too many local councils colluding with the criminals in posts as head teachers. And we have seen too many incumbents or wannabes as head teachers as behaving nothing less than as thugs and criminals. And all of them should be prosecuted. That's the beginning, that's the start. Now, the London Transport, what is called the Transport for London. Now, Transport for London was a GLC creation. I think. Let's check what the Transport for London, the origins of Transport for London, when it was originally named. This is Transport for London, TFL, is a local government body responsible for most of the transport network in London, United Kingdom. TFL has responsibility for multiple rail networks, including the London Underground and Docklands Light Railway, as well as London's buses, taxis, principal road routes, cycling provision, trams, and river services. It does not control all national rail services in London, although it is responsible for London Overground and Elizabeth Line services. Remember, Elizabeth Line is the Crossrail line. The underlying services are provided by a mixture of wholly owned subsidiary companies, principally London Underground, by private sector franchises. So these are the ones. So let's see when it was published. History, the COVID-19 pandemic organized operation center. And we shall check the origins of this and see when it was founded. It was set up. The entry is too long otherwise. Executive agency within the Greater London Assembly. Purpose Transport Authority, headquartered at 5 Endeavour Square, London, E20, 1JN. Region served, London, England. Chairman, Mayor of London, Sadiq Khan. Commissioner, Andy Lord. So TFL Commissioner is Andy Lord. Now, main organ is the London Underground, Elizabeth Line, London Buses, London Rail, London Streets, and the parent organization is the Greater London Authority. And the budget for 2019 to 20 was 10.3 billion, 47% of this from fares. There are 28,000 staff. All right, so it doesn't say when it was set up in that entry summary. Anyway, the TFL became embroiled in serious controversy during Ken Livingstone's tenure as the GLC leader. Because the criminal Ken Livingstone brought in as the commissioner for TFL. Who did he bring in? This criminal claiming to be a red socialist, etc. This criminal brought in a former CIA man. Can you believe that? Not only that, the former CIA man was treated to a multi-million pound rewards package. What the fuck for? Now, this evening, which is 4th of December 2022, I traveled on a TFL bus. And for the second time on the same route at the same station, bus stop, this fucking driver ignored my buzzing the bell to stop the fucking bus at the stop that he should have stopped at anyway. So the previous one, the criminal driver, when I got off, when he stopped at the next stop, he did say he was very sorry. This evening, I got fed up and I didn't even go and ask him why he did that. The point is that most of the Transport for London employees are not serving passengers and the public properly. Just as it is the case that most of the care workers, so called, in the NHS and NHS like or NHS linked organizations are not caring for the people that they're supposed to be caring for. I should be talking about the caring disaster, the caring crisis very shortly. So it's not like it was Boris Johnson who was the depraved one. It was Eustace was the depraved one. The entire culture, the entire executive authority and agencies of this country's government are in dysfunction, degenerate dysfunction. And the reason why they're in dysfunction is because there is no real force that can be applied to them, against them, to make them behave. There is no accountability, really. There is no democratic audit. And they don't give a shit about the people. So, whatever the debates about the nurses currently being promoted by certain sections, including the right winger, opportunist liar, Christina Patterson, who appeared with another opportunist creep, a so called Muslim called Ali Miraj, on the Sky News press preview for the Sunday papers on the Sky News edition last night. Christina Patterson says that the nurses have had enough and that the Secretary of State for Health, Barclay, is not really engaging with them. That is only one aspect of the narrative, one aspect of the fact. It is absolutely true that the Barclay and whoever else is the Conservative Health Secretary doesn't want to engage with the nurses and the kind of low grade, salary wise, low grade employees of the NHS. But anyone who has been an inpatient in any hospital in the last, let's say, 10 years would know that most of the nurses on the ground, on the actual wards, are not European, not British. Most of them, absolutely the most of them in London anyway, are people of African origin, whether they're Caribbean, through Caribbean descent or not. Whether it is to do with the descent, whether it is to do with the lack of training, whether it is to do with the fact that the NHS bureaucracy doesn't give a fuck to the people most vulnerable because they are in hospital, it is not clear. But the reality is that patients are treated essentially with contempt by these personnel. And the doctors who are on duty, apparently on duty for these particular wards, are engaged in drama. The doctors create a kind of dramatic atmosphere as they zoom into the wards and they kind of jocularly address the patients. Hello there, as if the patients are all deaf. And then they engage in a monotone, in a monologue of idiocy. They are not engaged in conversing with the patients. That is the reality. Whether they're consultants or whether junior doctors doesn't make a fucking difference. The NHS is killing itself. And the nurses, it's not just the mass murdering nurse who murdered the babies, but it's the other nurses that are actually murdering the idea of the NHS, the idea of caring and showing respect. Now, As I said about the Tesco employee, Asian woman with a sari or headgear, the Asian female medical staff in the hospitals are contemptuous of Asian patients, disrespectful of Asian patients. So, where do you begin? That is the reality, stark reality. So, it's not just Matthew Hancrook who is blaming the care workers for bringing COVID into the hospital and destroying the safety of so many patients, inpatients in the sort of care homes that died. It's not just the row between Hancrook and the so-called nurses. The entirety of the NHS is in disarray. It's not because of lack of money, for fuck's sake. Lack of money has been the slogan right from the beginning. That has never been the real issue for the destructive state in which the NHS has been kept for the 70 years that it has been in existence. It is the attitude of hatred and contempt, disrespect by the nurses, by the doctors, and the others in post in hospital right across the country. So, who is going to be asked to sort it out? Because the government is made up of dysfunctioning, unfits, misfits. And the courts, if you go to the courts of law, these are serial, the benches of criminals sitting in the courts, as they have shown with the rubber stamping of George Eustace's and Christian Evilmas's lies against baby angel Geronimo in 3 hearings or 3 kind of court cases separately. You cannot go to the High Court, you cannot go to the Supreme Court and expect the truth about the crisis created and maintained every day in the NHS to be truthfully told and recorded, and a process began by order of a court to put the National Health Service on the road to recovery. We shall be talking more about that and more in due course, of course. Now, about the Guardian and talking about the cost of living crisis and the fuel crisis, the Guardian says exclusive 500,000 of homes missing out on energy bill help. This is the same edition of the Guardian which on the front page has got an item about warning as 6 children die of strep A. Now remember what I said about the NHS being in crisis. This is one of the symptoms of lack of care and lack of real hygiene. It's not only in the mainstream NHS hospitals, but in the allied agencies called care homes, where hygiene is at risk and no accountability is visible. And the local councils which pay these care homes millions and millions and millions of pounds every single year, the local councils don't give a fuck about whether the care homes are maintained hygienically in safe conditions, safe for the residents of these local authority areas in whose name the money is being paid into the pockets of these care homes. And there is this other thing called the caring industry. It's a grotesque criminal trade like a cocaine or drug trade. The caring industry is stuffed with thugs and criminals. They don't give a fuck about caring. They are engaged in scaring the people who they're supposed to care about and care for. This is the Khoodeelaar campaign. Baby Angel Geronimo editions, part B of the Sunday edition, part B of the editions on Sunday, the 4th of December 2022. This is an exclusive, world class exclusive, original broadcast. Now you can notice we don't have friends, we don't have followers because we don't want them. Having friends or followers is a diversion. Most friends are ignorant and most followers are insane. So it's not based on substance or sanity. It's based on insanity and craze. We are engaged in putting on the record, publishing absolutely original, authentic, investigative journalism and morality and commentary based on ethics. So that's why we don't have any friends and we don't give a shit about the friends and followers. Most of the followers are, as I said, crazed and insane. Now, we have in the United Kingdom this first so called non white Prime Minister, Rishi Sunak. Now, Sunak is sinking very fast, not only because his own incompetence and his own kind of artificiality, which is coming to the fore every day of the week, every day that passes. It is also because he is in complicit collusion with criminals like Suella Braverman, the Cruella Evila. And there is again no forum in the United Kingdom Parliament that can hold the Prime Minister to account. There is absolutely nothing in the so called constitutional independence of the judiciary that can bring about an atmosphere of accountability into practice. So we are going to end this particular edition, by no means complete by updates, and it's 48 minutes, and it's part 2 or part B of the edition of Sunday, the 4th of December 2022. We shall continue in due course whenever we next broadcast.